Welcome everyone. Tēnā koutou katoa. Anea ngāti Noe, ngāti Horana, ngāti Panama, ngāti Ingarahi, ngāti Wiwi, ngāti America, e mihi kao ana ki koto. I whanau mai au ki America. Ko te taita te manga e ru ne toku nakau. Ko wateki te awa e mahia aku ma harahara. Ko otatahi toku kainga e noho ne ao. He mihi ka tika ki ngā mana whenua. Karanga nei, wairua tapu ki roto nei, he tangata tiriti aho, he roia takutunga mahi ki Perryfield Lawyers, ko tipene moe toko ingoa, no reira ngā mihi kia koto katoa. So welcome everyone. That was the long version of my pepeha. I don't usually do that version, but I thought I'd give it a go. And it's great to have so many of you joining. For those of you who are just joining in the chat, we're putting where we're from and what the weather's like. And it's really just to prove that you all know how to use the chat because I want to make this as interactive as possible. I want to hear your thoughts as I'm speaking. I want you to agree, disagree. I want you to think, what's a resource that could add value? I'm going to add it in. And also, in order to make this interactive, I'm really happy if you want to put the organization you're from, what is the Mahi, what is the work that you're doing in the world, feel free to add it to the chat and people can have a look, maybe raise awareness of what you're doing. It's great. We've got dozens of you online. It's a chance to be able to share what you're doing. I'm really grateful that you've joined today. My name's Stephen Moe, and I'm a partner at Perryfield Lawyers. I also do a podcast called Seeds Podcast, and I've interviewed more than 500 people now, hour-long conversations with them. And I'm glad that you could join me. This session, I try to do these every once in a while, just sort of sessions on topics that I think we need to discuss more, and we need to challenge each other a little bit more. So this one is called, the paper is called Collaborate, and it's how charities can advance their purpose by working together. If you're here, I'm sure you have thoughts about this topic, and I would love to open it up in a little bit, even not just in the chat. If any of you would like to give examples or have a comment, we're going to make it very interactive. So I'm going to ask if anybody would like to share, then that will be fine. Thanks everybody for dropping your what you're doing in the chat. That's awesome to see. And yeah, just a good chance to raise the profile of what you're up to. We're also lucky we have Chloe Bettina who just put a note in the chat, and she's going to be sharing a little bit about Youth Arts New Zealand because I thought it would be really helpful to hear from a charity about some of the collaboration that they're actually involved in. So I'm going to get into this paper and just explain the context and some of the key points. Of course, you've all read it, every word, right? But in case some of you haven't, I'm going to explain the key themes that I think are relevant for our discussion today. Just before we do that, a reminder that we've got a lot of free resources. We're one of the leading law firms for charities, and I call them purpose-driven groups in New Zealand. I don't really like the term not-for-profit so much. Some of you have heard me say this before. Why do we describe the sector by what it's not? And why do we describe it in relation to profit? As if we should be profit, but we're not. We're not for profit. So I prefer the for-purpose sector or purpose-led, or, it maybe covers a few more organizations as well. But we're putting out a lot of content right now. One of the things is this book called Changing Paradigms. So Bridget is on the line, and I really appreciate her being here. She's going to drop links in the chat. This is a free download. There's 24 people with all of their thoughts about what charity could be, what business could be in the future. So I thought I'd mention that. And I also wanted to alert you to a new one, which will come out probably in a week or two, and it's about donating tax credits. So this is important for charities to understand. There's going to be a change to the rules. The guts of it is when people give to a charity, you know how they can get 1/3 back? In the future, the change will be that they can designate that the 1/3 goes to the charity. So that's actually quite a big shift. Instead of it coming to the person, it will be able to go to
Yeah.
the charity. So that will be important to be aware of. Just make sure you're all on mute as well. That would be awesome until I give you the chance to speak. The other bit that I wanted to mention is about donation tax credits. So this is a big shift for charities that over 100K, you won't be able to get one third back if you donate to charities. So this is something I've just put a paper out about with Shamabil Yakub, the economist. He's an amazing guy. I love collaborating with him whenever I can. And the paper really questions the policy behind that shift. It needs more people to talk about it. So we'll put a link in the chat and feel free to tell other people you know about it. And let's keep it as an issue so that it hopefully can get change. I think it has a chilling effect for charity and the charity sector. Happy to talk about it more if you'd like. You can put a comment in the chat if you'd like to know more. All right, so let's get into this. Collaborate, how charities can advance their purpose by working together. The reason that, well, the quote I put at the start was to go fast, go alone, to go far, go together. And I love the idea behind that, that actually we can't do everything on our own. We actually need others. And sometimes I think there's a mindset in New Zealand, which I'm going to speak about in a bit, which is the number eight wire mindset. And you know what I'm meaning there is, oh, there's a problem here. We'll just get a bit, just a bit of wire, just a scrap. We'll fix it. We'll make it better. And I think that is a positive thing. It can be a positive thing. But I think if you have a number eight wire mentality, when it comes to actually big problems, and if you're constantly thinking, well, I can just fix it with this scrap of number eight wire, I think it misses the fact that maybe there's somebody just down the road who has a solution, and actually we need to talk and work together to do it. So that's the heart behind the paper, to go fast, go alone, to go far, go together. And I'd love to see how we can work more together as charities. So there are a lot of charities in New Zealand. There's roughly 29,000 per person. That's one of the highest in comparable nations. So compared to Australia, it's much higher. Compared to Canada and the US, those are kind of comparison type nations. Um, I like to think this is the glass half full part of me, because I know what some of you are thinking is, oh, it's too many, we need to get rid of them. I do like to think that the fact we have so many charities is an indication of the generosity of people, that we start things because we want to make things better and we want to solve a problem. So that's the generous side of it, is that we've got a lot of charities because there's needs and we need to meet them. But the flip side of it, of course, is that I think people do set up new initiatives and new charities when actually they should take time to research and find out that there's already a group doing what they want to do. So that's the flip side of having lots of charities. And also, when you have too many, you end up going for the same funding. And so there's a saturation of fundraisers all going to the same funding sources. We're a fairly small economy, fairly small nation. And the reality is, if I sat with any one of you, we would have people in common. Um, by the way, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn with any of you. And when you do that, sometimes it says who you're connected to. I had someone the other day reach out and it was like 483 mutual connections. And I thought, yeah, that's how small this place is, you know. We're all interconnected. But the where I'm heading with this is that there can be fragmentation within sectors, and there can be limited funding pools. And if we don't work together and potentially merge, dare I say it, amalgamate, that's at the extreme end of this collaboration scale. Then I think that that can be a problem. So the format, what I like to do is just tell you a little bit of the things, the barriers that I see to collaboration. And then I saw that you had joined. So Chloe, I'd love to just get your input, your feedback on the ways that you're approaching collaboration at Youth Arts New Zealand. And I love that initiative, by the way. I helped, I think it was Harrison and Matthew who were the guys originally, and helped draft the trust deed. And it's a really cool initiative. So I'll be turning to you in a minute. But I also want to hear from all of you. So in the chat, put examples you've got of collaboration, and I'll also open it up if you want to speak. Then after Chloe speaks, it will be open to people to be able to share. At the end of this session, my aim is that you might be challenged about maybe thinking about how you could collaborate more, and also maybe that this recording, the paper, it would be something that you can share with your board, and that it would be a challenging thing. I think sometimes we're a little bit afraid of conflict or raising things that are difficult, but I think we need to get over that. I think we need to actually have conversations that go a bit deeper. Um, the reason that I'm interested in this whole thing is that in the last year, our team, there's about 15 of us in the impact team at Perryfield. We have about 100 people in total, but 15 of us or so are working in this sort of for-purpose area. And we've set up, yeah, about 40 or 50 charities. So we're very, very active in this area. And one of the first questions that I'll ask when somebody comes and says, I want to set up a charity, I have a little, my own mental screening is, well, is anybody else doing this? Could you come alongside them and do it instead? Like, do we need to set up a new charity? And I think that's important. But what are some of these barriers to collaboration, and then what does a spectrum of collaboration look like? The barriers, and I'll be relatively brief because I did put it in this paper. Hopefully, you saw that. You could click it, download it. The meeting invite for this, I think it had the link in there as well. And it's very easy to find. And if you're here, you probably have seen it. The first one that I just wanted to, so there's four things I'm going to cover. The first one is founder syndrome. I think sometimes founders end up conflating their own personal ego and their own identity with the charity. And the problem I have with that is the charity going to live beyond the founder? Or is it so bound up in who they are that it's not going to survive beyond their being involved? So this is particularly I see when actually a charity needs to have a good hard look in the mirror and say we need to merge or we need to amalgamate. That's the ultimate form of collaboration, if you like. And I see that personal ego can get in the way. The legacy is too strong, tied to one person. So that's a hard conversation to have, but I'm just pointing out some things that I've seen. The second one is losing sight of the mission. Unfortunately, sometimes I've seen charities get so bound up in the charityness of what they do that it's almost like perpetuating the charity becomes the motive rather than coming back to the wicked problem that they were set up to solve. And I think sometimes that can be mission drift. So we end up focusing more on perpetuating the reputation and the branding and the position of the charity rather than getting back to the mission itself. Um, yeah, so some of this might be hard for some people to hear. I'm just trying to speak truth into the barriers that I see to collaboration. The third one is that the organization itself becomes the reason for being. This is related to the last one. In other words, the legacy of what we're doing is too strongly bound up in the identity of the organization, and we've lost sight of why we're here. I want to counter this with a positive story. And I put a link in the paper. There's like a QR code. You can watch me speaking about this at a recent conference. But it's a beautiful story. And the reason I give it is I don't want this to just be a negative sort of, oh, here's what's wrong. So this was a group that approached us, and the average age of the people who attended this group were in their 80s. And they had the foresight to say, we won't be here in 15 years. How could we approach the assets we hold, the money we've got, the building, which is worth a lot of money? What could we do with this that would be positive and constructive? And they identified another group in the same place that they lived, and that group had an average age of 35, and they had lots of children. And so the group with the older generation approached the younger generation and said, we would like to merge with you. We would like to wind up our entity, and we're going to transfer our assets, our building, our money, and we want you to continue the legacy through what you do. And so to me, that was a beautiful thing. And like I kind of bow down to the ability to see beyond yourself to be able to see that actually for the benefit or the good of the mission, we actually are going to wind up. Now, that's really hard when the building has your great grandmother's name on the wall, or your great great grandfather founded it in 1902. But I think these are the sorts of conversations that we need to have more of. So, some of the hard questions that should be asked, and Craig Fisher, who's a great friend and colleague, we wrote a paper called Charting the Future. We thought that there were 7 questions that you need to ask as a charity. The first one, what is our purpose? Come back to purpose. Why are we here? The second, do we have a right to exist? The third, do we still need to exist? Fourth, should we have an end date? Fifth, should we continue to try and go it alone? Six, are we thinking broadly enough about who we can collaborate with? And seven, can we reimagine the future? So that paper itself is quite challenging, and I hope that you go have a read of it. We put it out, I think it was 2020. It was like right when COVID was happening and people were questioning the future. So I've talked a little bit about the mergers, like that's the ultimate thing is to wind up and merge with another charity. But I want to encourage you all that there's other examples of collaboration. And just to warn you, Chloe, I'm going to come to you very soon and hearing a little bit about Youth Arts New Zealand. But the collaboration, I kind of think of it as a scale. And the most collaboration, like the ultimate collaboration would be we become one, like 2 charities come together and we work together and we are now one charity. But another example would be joint ventures. So we've identified a need in our community. We're one charity. Here's another charity. Let's have a joint venture to work together on it. Um, there's a recent example, and I hope that the person who emailed me is on the call about the medical area, looking at drugs and access to pharmacy, medicines and things. And there's a website where a number of groups in the medical area, charities, and they've come together to develop this. And hopefully one of you knows what I'm talking about and you can drop it in the chat. Actually, I think I saw you join, Monica, so maybe you can drop it in the chat if you remember. But it's a beautiful example of charities coming together, putting aside the ego and saying, actually, this is an important issue for all of us. So joint ventures would be something. Another might be a project, like we're just going to have a one-off event. We're going to run it together. Not a long-term thing, but we're just going to have a youth program, or we're going to have something that's running in the park in the summer, and we're going to have artists come or something like that. Another way would be fund holding. We've done a paper about fund holding. Bridget, maybe you can find it and drop it in. But fund holding is where one charity will hold the money on behalf of another entity. Normally, we see that when there's a new initiative arising and you don't yet have your own entity, so you approach another group to hold it for you, like an umbrella organization. And then we're getting into the more simple things, but there could be informal relationships. Just last week, actually, I was at an event up in Auckland in Tamaki Makaurau that Clive Pedley from Giving Architects had pulled together. And it was basically 20 CEOs of charities gathering together to have conversations and hear about a topic and then learn from each other. So that's just those informal relationships, no written contracts or anything, but I think we need to do more of that. I try to host lunches. Feel free to steal this idea. Just go to a cafe and invite people who are doing great things in your city and talk to each other. And maybe you end up with people who are involved in mental health sitting next to an environmental charity. And then you realize, well, actually, we could work together on something. So there's informal relationships and connections. And then also supporting existing entities. So some charities exist to raise money to then get it to other charities. So that's what we're talking about when we're looking at options for collaboration. So in the paper, I go into each of them and kind of give examples of all of these different things. And yeah, I guess some of the positives would be you're preventing service duplication, you're reducing admin overheads, you're assisting in getting skilled leadership working together. So I think it's yeah, worth having on the radar of what is possible. So yeah, I think it's really important. Before I forget, I want to acknowledge Lucy Walton, who helped prepare this paper. So she's part of the impact team. And Bridget, who's putting the comments in the chat, she helped to make it look beautiful. So thank you both. So Chloe, if it's okay, if you can come off of mute, we would love to hear Youth Arts New Zealand. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. And then if you've got any examples of collaboration, yeah, we'll just have a bit of back and forth. But over to you.
Sure. Hello. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Chloe. Thank you for having me. I whakapapa to the Philippines, but I moved to Aotearoa when I was 1, so I have grown up here. Um, and I am the Creative Programs Director at Youth Arts New Zealand. We are a lovely, strong team of 2. So a lot of our operations really truly run on collaborating with other organizations or venues, or I'll speak to a couple of types of things that we do, but also just overall, in case anybody missed my comment about what Youth Arts does, we essentially run bridging programs for rangatahi young people into the arts, whether that's in a career or just as something that they love to do. We want to make the arts accessible for young people. So we have mostly at the moment music and live events programs, like training people to run events like the sound and tech, or a pipeline into doing performance paid gigs. And then we also do visual arts and a couple of writing programs when we have resource and or collaborators. So the examples that I'm going to give match up quite well with what you were just talking about, Stephen, a few of the different types of collaborating. One of the main ones that we do right now is we are based at Move Space on Dominion Road. So we used to be in our own office in Parnell, which we thought was it was a great move for our charity. We had our own space, and we could do whatever we wanted and host events and all that type of things. But then we often found that we were kind of alone on the third floor high tower in this Parnell building. And so we made the shift to Move Space, which is also home to, just across the hall, there's a violin teacher, there's a music studio, downstairs there's an event space and a coffee shop, there's also a content studio. So what we're finding is that even on days when it might just be Harrison and I doing laptop day, that's kind of what we call it, there's still going to be huge community of creative people coming through, and it's an open space, and it just makes more opportunity for connection. So that's one type of thing that just happens on the day to day. And then we have, I guess, 2 types of programs, where one is like an organization will umbrella us, as you say, but because I'll restart that. Because we're a youth organization, we totally acknowledge that there are people who have been doing this for longer than us. So we recently worked with Depot Art Space in Devonport, and they kind of mentored and guided us to do a rangatahi version of their really established Arts Lab program, and they wanted it to have a fresh a refresh. So they worked with us as rangatahi producers, and we made a rangatahi version of their program and ran that over a couple of months. And that was really beautiful, because now we can say that we learned, we had our own mentors, and then from there we were able to expand our skills, our producing skills, and how we want to run programs and learn from people who have been in the industry longer than us. And then on the reverse of that, we also, I think the term you use in your paper is umbrella other organizations. So we have been a registered charity for 8 or 9 years now, I think. I'm not a founder, so that date sometimes slips my mind. But we have, established systems and admin. We've been doing funding for a while, so it's we feel like we're also able to give people who are new to writing funding support. So that's a type of informal collaboration that we do, just with people who come through to move space on the day to day, or we run a kaupapa, which is similar to what Stephen was talking about, where you host lunches. We essentially open our actual office that I'm sitting in right now for hot desking. So then sometimes people will come in and ask us, "Oh, how do I apply for the Creative Communities scheme?" And we do informal collaborating that way. And then the final one that I'm going to talk about is just joint ventures, I think is how you referred to it in your paper. Because, as I mentioned, we're a team of two, Harrison and I, so we totally acknowledge that there are skills that we are missing. And one of my favorite collabs that we do is for our open mic series. We collaborate with Holding Space Aotearoa, and then a different venue each time for when we run the open mic. So the way that we do it is each charity or venue has like their job. So Youth Arts NZ is typically the main producer and the rangatahi outreach role, and then Holding Space, because they have music gear available and lots of tech skills. They will run the like sound and be the sound mentors and run the sound check, that type of thing. And then the venue will often help with Kai or making the space, you know, nice to be in, or hosting, essentially. And that's one of my favorite collaborations, because everyone's kind of bringing their superpowers together and joining forces, and it makes a really lovely event that we could perhaps not have pulled off at the same level on our own. Um, yeah, so there we
That's
go.
great.
That's my examples of some collaborations that we do.
I love that. There's so many examples. It's really good. I didn't know what you were going to say, everyone. So that's great that it lines up with some of the things in the paper, some of the themes. I love the some of those things like just the space that you're in, that you would open it up for others to come. And I'm noticing in the chat other people are putting ideas and things. So I hope the people listening are, absorb these ideas and think, what would it look like in my context, or how would this look? But Chloe, thank you so much. Feel free to keep adding to the chat if you think of other things, or and put a link to websites or anything that can help, yeah, raise the profile of what you're doing. So I'm keen to hear from other people. I do want, it's more fun for me as well. It's not as much fun for me just to talk. So I would love to hear from other people. In the paper, I did mention Community Foundations of Aotearoa, so I just wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to them, because I think what they're doing can be collaborative as well. They are looking at regional focuses, so there's 18 community foundations, and they're quite often working in a collaborative way with local communities and things, so worth checking them out. Steph Verco, I saw that you put some things in the chat, and one of them was you're involved in a nature thing, but you're looking to partner with mental health. I don't know, are you willing to come off of mute and share with us a little bit about that? I'd be curious to find out more. Well, if you are, you can put something in the chat and then I'll come back to you. You might not be available. That's fine. Jess from Young Enterprise, you put in the note that you're here as well. I wondered if you had any examples of this sort of collaboration, because I think you all have done quite a lot as well. And while you're getting prepared, would anyone else like to share anything that they have done, um, coming off of mute?
Oh, sorry, this is Jess from Young Enterprise here. Yeah, we've gone through. Yeah, we work with a number of different regional partners to deliver events for rangatahi throughout New Zealand. We recently ran an event where we wanted to cut the cost significantly, and we worked with business to give us sort of free venues and free dinners and things as well. So yeah, there's a few examples there. But definitely looking to do more, I think, going forward.
That's great. Thank you. And I think actually the example that you give there of working with a business, we haven't really touched on that, but I'd encourage, and maybe some of you will put some examples in the chat, or if you'd like to share, that's fine too. Partnering with for-profit companies and coming alongside them and doing something together. I think that's a really interesting way of doing things. The other challenging way, of course, is to think about. So I talk about this a lot in Changing Paradigms. The Oliver Twist mindset that we have is often charities, which is, please, can I have some more? Please, from the scraps of your table, would you be benevolent and give me $1? And sometimes I think charities get stuck in this mindset of we have to receive donations, and that's the only way. But what I do a lot of with charities is helping them think beyond that and helping them think about what is the good that we want to do in our community, and is there something that we could do that actually does have some monetary flow to it. So an example, and thanks everybody. I see hands going up, so I'm going to come to you soon, Joel and Hannah. But I see examples like, well, an example would be a group that's in its community and it gets people coming along who donate to the cause that it stands for. And then they realize that in their community, it's really expensive to for their community members to have funerals, like end of life. It costs a lot of money. So that group, I helped set up a funeral business. So you wouldn't naturally think that setting up a funeral business would be something that a charity would get into, but actually it aligns really neatly with the cause of what they want to do. And so the point is now that business is making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They're serving their community. The facility they have anyway, which was vacant most of the week, is now used for holding the funerals, and they're helping their community at the time of need for these people. So it's a blue skies thinking thing, but in your context, in your charity or what you're doing, is there things that you do that actually you could maybe do it in a different way, a different approach? I know that's different to collaboration, but I wanted to throw it out to challenge you to think about that. So this is great. We got three people putting their hands up. I should have said at the start, put your hand up if you want to speak, but keep things coming in the chat. It's great. I'm seeing a lot of people putting things and be open to be challenged, right? Like be open that maybe we need to do things differently and read through some examples that are coming there. So Joel, over to you. Yeah, we'd love to hear any of your thoughts.
Kia ora, everyone. I've what should happen there? Can you hear me? Yeah.
I think I can hear you fine. So
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear anybody. Just make sure I'm still coming through. Yeah. Look, a lot of the collaborative work I've done has been within the Salvation Army, not just in kind of Auckland and Northland, but across the country and the work that they're doing. And I put in the chat about bringing together business administration hubs to support them. And I guess I'm really excited about this conversation because that's part of, for me, what I see as next is being able to support these sorts of conversations as best as I can, particularly with other community groups. I guess just highlighting and appreciating the truth that you're sharing, Steve, is that even within our own organization, a lot of the things that you've mentioned that are kind of barriers, I would say we've come across, and we've had to do a lot of work trying to help get that mission back in focus. So I guess I just wanted to encourage people that the obstacles are real, but I think the benefit we've had with sticking with the collaboration, even when it's got a bit tense, and when the diversity of perspective has kind of made some of us feel like we just want to throw up our hands because it's too hard. Just want to encourage everyone, when you hit that wall, keep pushing through, because we've seen some really good things come from it, and just really hopeful that we can see more. Yeah.
That's great. No, I love it. Thank you. And it's great to hear that there are things going on within larger charities that you would still have your eyes open, that realizing that you need others. But also, I think I tried to put in the paper things that maybe would be hard for all of you to say, because it's hard for you to point out, you know, a founder ego, for example,
Yeah.
but you could point to the paper and say, oh, here's some interesting things to think about. So please do use it as a tool that can open up conversations. And it may be obvious, but if you can share it with other people or other charities, you know that it might help. I can only get it out to the people I know. I need all of you to help to forward it on or share it. This is being recorded, so we will be able to share the content later for others as well. Um, let's see, next. I think it was you, Hannah. Any would like
Kia
to
ora
share?
koutou, and thank you, Stephen, for all of this work. It's awesome. I'm probably just sharing a perspective from someone who works currently funder side. So I'm currently based at ASB and look after our charity partnerships, but I've also worked charity side. So aware of many of the pros and cons of amalgamations and collaborations. But something that I see so regularly is, boards requesting for-purpose organisations to seek corporate partnerships and being limited by being regional or duplicating, and it effectively limits any ability to have those national corporate partnerships that everyone's sort of seeking, and so I think really to open up that as a feasible option for national corporate partnerships, discussions around whether they're formal amalgamations or more collaborations that you come in together to form a partnership. It really does open up some funding that's not currently available in the current model when you're not working together. So yeah, pros and cons with that, but just wanted to share that perspective from a potential, funder at a national level. We like to work with national partners because it's really hard when it's disjointed and you're trying to work in different segments in different places and there are different relationships. That's just really challenging and often too hard.
Well,
Yeah.
you've given another great and very logical reason why it's good to collaborate and work together, because I think you're right. Particularly if you have dozens and dozens or even more entities, and how do you navigate it? In the chat, there's a lot of great comments, so thanks everybody. I was just going to read out the one from Nicola. I'd also say that charities get stuck on ideological perspectives and miss the opportunity to share work with unlikely bedfellows. You don't have to agree with every single thing that another organization does. And you could be upfront about disagreeing on some things, but you can also find highly impactful work together on the things that you can engage on, and you both might learn something. So that's, yeah, a very pithy way of putting it. I like that. Thank you. I think next, Holly, over to you.
Oh, kia ora. I'm Holly Snape from Community Waikato, also on the board of CFANZ. So thank you to the shout out to community foundations. And yes, collaboration, obviously a critical part of what we're working on. But Community Waikato, we're a capacity and capability builder in the Waikato region. And we've been working really closely since COVID, essentially, with Creative Waikato and looking for opportunities across our respective sectors to bring obviously a creative approach often into our communities, and the social wellbeing approach into creative spaces. So it's been a really interesting journey, but we've got a fantastic hui coming up. We've just got confirmation of sponsorship. So it's literally a collaborative hui, and that we are collaborating to deliver this on how to collaborate across the sector. And so the people being invited will include charities, but as you say, businesses, like local businesses that we know are really interested in looking at how to create, activated, thriving communities. We're inviting local government, local artists, community organisations, so huge, right across the spectrum. To start with an explanation of the different ways that we can collaborate, moving into an open space where we're encouraging people to start sharing ideas about what they would like to collaborate on, and starting to build those concepts, and culminating with presentations on what those are and the potential partners, and a $5,000 kind of seed funding to start moving something, to actually get something off the ground, which we know is minimal, but the point is to to really try and put skin in the game and encourage right across multiple sectors opportunities to work together and appetite to do it, and hopefully a bit of excitement about it, because collaborations are where we see solutions that we may never have seen before, because you have such different perspectives coming to the table. So it is going to be really exciting, and I'll be really keen to share back with people how we hopefully the success of that, but certainly how it turns out, and whether or not we're able to seed and motivate some of these collaborative initiatives to get off the ground.
That's great. Thank you. That's really good. And maybe in the chat, put any links to anything. I mean, the chat's going really well. I'm very happy. Well done, everyone. But everyone drop links or initiatives or things that you think would be relevant. And then what we can try to do because we'll have a follow-up email where we'll send, summary of what we talked about. So we should be able to pull out links and put it in. We'll find a way to get it to you. So feel free to keep dropping things in. Nicola, over to you.
Kia ora koutou. Hopefully you can hear me. Oh, I'll just wait for Stephen to nod. Yes. Okay. So I'm Nicola Tuki. I was more recently the Chief Executive of Forest and Bird, and I'm currently involved with a couple of charities, including Impact 100 in Canterbury as an ambassador for them. I would just say, and now I'm working in a consultancy called MSH, which means Making Strategy Happen. And what I would say as someone who has, been involved in running a Tier 2 charity and all the requirements that come with that, is that the point about collaboration with respect to funding that lady, I'm going to say her name was Holly, and hopefully I didn't get it wrong, said earlier, is really true and increasingly true. So increasingly corporate funders want to fund kind of multiple organisations with shared outcomes. And it really doesn't matter how nice you kind of get around the table and have good intentions and want to play together and do all the right things, unless you're really clear about accountabilities at the beginning and what you want for your organisation to get out of it, and therefore as well what everybody wants to get out of it. And unless you can map that and hold each other to account, you will find yourself in trouble. And so I would just say, I know that sometimes in charities words like business rules and accountability become kind of bad words. They're really not, and they're really important to be able to deliver for the organisation that you're obviously involved in, because you want to do good things. So I would just say we certainly have lots of experience working with for-purpose organisations, for iwi entities, for big businesses. It doesn't matter, but getting around the table and actually being really clear and upfront about, my organisation wants to achieve this, and together we're going to achieve these things, and then holding each other to account through monitoring and reporting will allow you access to get those funds increasingly. So just a big shout out for a bit of rigour around how you go about it, because with the best will in the world, people are people, and sometimes things go awry, would be my only reflection.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, that's very insightful. And the whole point of this call was to stimulate these thinking and the discussion. So I'm really pleased with everybody and all of your thoughts that you're bringing to the table. Thank you. If anybody else has a thought, then feel free to raise your hand and then I can easily pull it out. In the chat, there's a bunch of good things. So I'm just going to read something. It looks like Alana said, while I don't host it, there's a group of fundraisers that get together quarterly from Auckland and Waikato to discuss all things going on, what we're working on, what we're thinking about starting or trialing. It's been amazing to be able to get insights from other fundraisers in the space who are willing to share, collaborate, so we can avoid making the same mistakes or can use the suggestions that do really work. Yeah, started as a direct email group, but has morphed into collaborating with different fundraising campaign ideas. So that's really good to see. Yeah, good to hear. The other thing that I wanted to mention before we finish the call, and I'll just finish it when there's no one else who has something to say, because I feel like we've gotten to the key points. But I do have a thought, which is too often the charitable sector is reactive, and we're always seeing a change in government policy, or, oh, there's a crisis, we need to react to it. And I'd like to encourage us all to start thinking in a proactive way. And so instead of waiting for the big change in tax policy or waiting for this other thing, what would it look like if we developed a charity sector roadmap? Roadmap being, I'm, going on a trip. How am I going to get to the destination? And what is the destination? What does a cohesive charity sector look like? And what does it look like if we are supporting each other and collaborating and, working together? So at this point, it's just an idea in my head still, but I think it would be good to develop some sort of um, a roadmap for the charitable sector. I think it's actually needed across multiple sectors. So another one that I can think of would be the housing sector. And how about the education sector and the renewable energy sector? So you can see where I'm going with this. But I'd be interested if anyone wants to explore that more, what that might look like. Like how could we develop a sector roadmap, or what are there examples from other countries that we could look at, or has it been done already and I just don't know about it? Yeah, I'd be curious about that. So just throwing that in while there was a pause. Richard, do you have something to say? Go for it.
Yeah, kia ora, Stephen, and kia ora, everyone. I'm on the board for the Nelson Environment Centre, and just picking up on a point you raised before, Stephen, of collaborating or looking at business opportunities, really. One of the things we did many years ago was get involved with um, re reducing waste to landfill effectively, which is one of our environmental goals. So we basically work with the company that the Nelson City Council engaged to undertake waste collection. And we set up a shop effectively at the place where the waste gets delivered in the recycling centre before it gets crushed and taken to landfill. And it was a really good way of encouraging people to think about what they were taking to get crushed and sort of basically get that material out of the waste stream. And we've now established quite a good not only way of encouraging people to drop off stuff there that can be reused, and that's created a bit of income for us, but also just generated a lot of awareness of the potential for reusing items. Since there's many years ago, and now there's quite a few shops that are secondhand shops, and some are run by community organisations as well that sort of picked up on that theme. But so it's just, I guess, just raising the need to be aware of those sorts of opportunities, working with your councils and aligned businesses on things like that that might support the cause or the efforts and your principles that you're standing for or working on.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good contribution. It's important to think about these things, isn't it? Because otherwise, if you just keep in the day-to-day, there's always another email to answer. We need to have this broader perspective. Um, Monica has from Child Cancer has put a link there, which is quite helpful to if you go to the Children and Young People's Health Collective manifesto. Monica, I don't know if you are able or would like to speak to what that was, but I just got to the website, so it looks like it's an initiative supported by a number of different charities: Ronald McDonald House, Make-A-Wish, Kidney Kids, Heart Kids, Child Cancer, Canteen. Monica,
no, thanks, Stephen. So a group of us that often experience the same issues for the families and the tamariki that we're supporting have been working together over a number of years. And we decided to do a manifesto leading into the election this year for some very specific key asks, but some broader ones as well that would relate across the charities that were working together as the collective. So it was a really, really helpful thing to do. We worked with Advocacy Answers, Prue and Georgie, to help us actually get to the guts of the ask. and then published it and then launched it at Parliament a few weeks ago. And we're now in the process of having follow up with the MPs. And the feedback was, I mean, one, we would never have been able to get that traction on our own if we were all six of us going trying to do something ourselves. It was way more impactful having the collective brands and the collective voice of covering, like 160,000 children across the charities involved. And the feedback was positive because there were some very specific asks within the manifesto. So we will just keep that pressure up across us as a collective going forwards.
Mm. It's great. It's another really good example of to go fast, go alone, to go far, go together. That's sort of a principle that actually we all have the same goals in mind, and we're going to have a stronger voice if we speak as one. So really good example. And Monica, I think it's called the forbidden pharmacy, the thing I was trying to remember but couldn't. Does that ring a bell to you as well of groups? I'm just putting it in the chat. So this is like the medicines that New Zealand needs, and a number of different charities have organized it. Is that your understanding?
I've not been part of that, but I did meet with Rare Disorders the other week, and they work in a collaborative network of organisations interested in advocacy in the health and pharmaceuticals sort of side of things. So whether that's related at all, and I was really impressed with what they're doing as well as a lot of these things go under the radar, don't they? But it's really good people working hard behind the scenes to make positive change happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Rare Disorders New Zealand site has a description. That was where I got that link from. And it says the Forbidden Pharmacy opened to politicians and the media on Friday, 24th of July, and to the public on Saturday, July 25th, for one day only. Every shelf was stocked with medicines that New Zealanders cannot access. So, yeah, pretty powerful way of conveying, a message to politicians and other decision makers. And I'm pretty sure that was a number of different groups, the collective that came together to do that. Oh, and Elena's put Forbidden Pharmacy was so cool to see. Migraine Foundation, Gut Cancer did some promo around it. They were part of it too. Yeah, great. Well, I guess the point of this is, what is your context? Who is in your sphere? Maybe not in your city, maybe in another place, but who could you collaborate with? Who could you work together with? And maybe some of these examples would be something that in a year's time you'll be able to say, here's what we did. We're in a small little town, a rural town, but three different groups came together and we did this initiative. And if only one of those things happened, then this call will have been worth it. But I'd like to encourage all of you to have this mindset, maybe have a mindset shift, and maybe forward this on to the board that you're part of and ask the question of, are we trying to do things on our own when we should be collaborating and working with others? So that's the intent of the paper. And that I feel like all of you on this call are probably on board with this. So please join me in helping spread the word. And, it's a pretty easy thing to add it to the newsletter that you have anyway that goes out to your supporters. And all of those supporters probably are part of Charities, and maybe some of them could read it and they could, have a discussion at their boardroom tables too. So sometimes we don't amplify the good stuff. And I know we're all busy, but it's a pretty easy thing to do. Well, I think we might finish up now. If anybody has any last things, feel free to drop them into the comments. One of the superpowers I think that we have in Aotearoa New Zealand is Te Ao Māori, and I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think that approach is often much more of a community focus rather than sort of a Western individualistic focus. And I think there's a lot that we could learn from Te Ao Māori when it comes to collaborating, thinking long term as well. How many times in our meetings are we thinking about the next quarter, the next year, the next 5 years? When was the last time your board had a discussion about it's 2126? It's 100 years from now. what does our organization look like? That'd be a pretty interesting brainstorming blue skies session, wouldn't it? Like, how are we preparing today for what we will become when none of us are here? um, Hopefully, some of you will say, well, we won't exist because the problem will have been solved. But it's a thought-provoking way of framing things. So hopefully that's of use. So what we're going to do is send out the video link when it's ready, and you've got the paper link. I do this podcast called Seeds. I would really value it. Like, this is from my heart. If you can subscribe, like it, if you can leave a rating and review, I know it's odd, but that 20 seconds it takes you helps the algorithms to then promote it to other people. So it's a pretty easy way to say thanks for hosting a webinar. There's no cost for all this stuff that we're putting on. And we also have a bunch of other resources that I'll put in the follow-up email. I send out an email every 2 weeks that goes to about 2,000 people. And so if you'd like to join that, then I'll put a link for how you do that. I'm trying to keep people updated on the latest news and events. Next week, we're planning to release a dictionary of purpose words, which has been really fun to write. Don't worry, it's not like a 500-word document. It's maybe 10 pages, but it's all the terminology that often get used in charities in the purpose sector that people don't understand what it means. So that's going to come out in about a week. And then later, in about a month, I'm putting out a new paper called Catalyzing Capital. And that's about the role of impact investing, particularly thinking about charities. And then the final new thing is a book called The Impact Company Paradigm. And that's going to be looking at the role of companies in society. So for all of those things, when you see them, if you're willing, please share them with others that it would benefit. So thanks everyone for joining. I think we'll just end with a karakia. And I didn't do the karakia at the beginning, I've just realized, but that's okay. We will finish with a karakia. So this is to close the meeting. Kia ora te marino, kia whakapapa ponamu te moana, he huarahi mā tato I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tato ia tato katoa. And the meaning of that is, may peace be widespread, may the sea be like greenstone, a pathway for us all this day. Give love, receive love, let's show respect for each other. Thank you everybody for joining. Feel free, I'm really bad at saying this at the end, but if we can help you with legal things, feel free to reach out. We've got a team of people who would love to talk. I have a drive every day. I'm happy to have conversations, brainstorming. So thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.